Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel once again. This is just going to be a quick review on what I think of the KLR 650s thus far. I apologize, I am a little bit sick, been battling a cold the last few days. Freaking sucks. I want to give my perspective on this bike, what I think of it so far. Do I plan on keeping it or getting rid of it in the near future? So let's get into it. So as far as the mods that I've done so far, and I think it's crucial when you buy a bike like this, is going to be these Tusk crash bars. The installation was a pain in the ass. You'll go on YouTube and watch tons of videos, whether it's people that are mechanically sound, or you'll go on Rocky Mountain Motorsports, and they'll talk about how easy the installation is. It's not easy. I would recommend having a friend or buddy help you with that, with the installation. It really is a two-man job. Some of the biggest areas that are going to give you the problems are behind this plate right here, and then down below where these bolts are, if you can see them. Those bolts are probably going to be the biggest pain that you're going to deal with when you're installing those bars, simply because you have to align that side and this side at the same time. Got interrupted by a tree cutter. I do recommend, though, regardless of how challenging it is, with this particular bike, get the crash bars. I think each fairing is like close to $100 each. That's $200. These Tusk crash bars were about $120 on Amazon, so they were pretty cheap. I will say that they are cheap. You know, from already on the floor, I mean, these have already, you know, cracked and the paint has come off. They put some kind of powder coated paint on here, but they're budget, man. And I don't like this at all, but it's going to be a bitch to peel off, so it is black and it kind of blends in. Most of them, they came with like a white decal or a white imprint already on the bars. I don't know why Tusk now has this black, all black imprint. It just looks cheesy and retarded. So I'm not a fan of that. I tried, you know, many a times I got actually Acerbid handguards and tried putting them on, had difficulty. So ultimately I put back on the wind guards. I will be eventually getting the handguards, but I'm just going to spend the money and go with Barkbuster. I hear that they're much easier to install. Do not get any other type of aftermarket handguards, in my opinion, because they could snap on, but then you have issues with your brake. The Acerbid ones that I had was having an issue with the brake. Literally, I had to pull the brake all the way in just to freaking get it to go, because it was pulling, it was giving way on this brake lever right here. So in my opinion, get Barkbusters and only Barkbusters on this bike. Do not get Acerbid, even if they say they're a universal fit. I could not snug these down in my case. Maybe you can in yours, but I could not snug them down. I don't recommend them. The other aftermarket part that I put on so far is going to be the skid plate. Now, I went through another skid plate. I ended up getting rid of it because it was the Tusk skid plate, and I just found that it vibrated a lot. This skid plate, again, was a bitch to get on. It's a Ricochet skid plate. From Ricochet. It was a bitch to get on, but once it was on, I mean, I'll have to see how it is on Sunday when I test the bike out, but it seems pretty freaking solid, right? It covers my water pump, it covers part of the engine case on the other side, and it also covers down here. The stock one is garbage. Do not stick to that one. That one's like a plastic piece of shit skid plate. I would not recommend it. So I did notice that when I had the bike on, that the back license plate area, it vibrates, and I think that's just because of the aluminum in the, I'm not gonna get too far into that, but the aluminum in the license plate in the back of this, so I'll have to try to find a fix on that. Overall, how do I feel that the bike is? I feel it's pretty awesome, actually. It's pretty solid. This bike has been around since the 80s. You know, would I recommend it as a first bike? No, just because of the weight and the power that can come on. You know, as this bike is breaking in, I am feeling a lot more power kind of come with it. I do like the fact that it's fuel injected now, and these are all LED rear rear light is not LED, it's halogen or incandescent, whatever, one of the two. The only thing is handguards, and then I want to replace these foot pegs. I would not recommend these at all off-road. How is it, off-road? I only took it a little off-road to Holy Gym, about a month ago, as you probably saw in one of my other videos. And, for the most part, as long as you're not doing anything crazy, it'll cruise, man. It'll cruise 20, 30 miles an hour. If you push it more, you can if you're more experienced. I'm inexperienced over here, so I go at my own pace. On my KLX, I probably pushed that a little bit more, where I would go about 40 miles an hour off-road, and that's simply because it's lightweight. I would not do that now on this type of bike. This bike is way too heavy, top heavy mostly, and I just can't see myself doing it. This does deliver power. People say that it's slow and the power is very linear. Yeah, it is. It is slow in the beginning, but once you crank that thing up, it will go. This thing will pull you. It could be once it's fully broken in, it could be a shock to most brand new riders, even myself, because I've only been riding a few years now. Granted, I rode dirt bikes as a kid and whatnot, but in quads, but it was very minimal. But it shocks me, how good that this bike kind of comes on and has that. So I don't have the key on me right now. This is like it's all basic controls. Literally nothing is fancy on this bike. This is the 650S, so this is the shorter model. Nothing is fancy on this. I mean, it has high beam, low beam, turn signals, a horn. Then it has the kill switch over here, and then the starter button. Has a key ignition. I do like this ignition. It's pretty interesting. That part and that part are for like USB connectivity. Unfortunately, this bike is the base model, so if you rip this out, there's nothing there. You'd have to install it and then go into the wire harnessing. I'm sorry, I just don't want to do that. I don't need all that. I just wanted a basic bike, This is not adjustable suspension up front. They're not inverted forks. They're just regular forks. So there is no adjustability here. No rebound dampening, no preload adjustment, no any of that. Right there, that's my setting that I recently put it on. The rebound is going to be right there. So I didn't really tweak the... I didn't really go into the dampening settings, but I did crank the preload up. You can tell a difference as you're cranking it up, how it feels. It definitely is super soft. This one came with super soft suspension when I got it from the dealer, which came straight from the manufacturer, obviously Kawasaki. And this is the part that's conflicting. And I don't know if it's just my model or other models in general out there, but there is 5 settings, but it clicks up 4 times, right? I got it to, I think, 4 clicks, or no, 3 clicks. So I'm on the 4th setting right before you get to 5th. 5 is maximum preload, meaning that's the stiffest you're going to get. Right now I'm on 4. Could that change as I ride it and as I go off-road? Absolutely. That's the whole point of suspension, is you have to kind of fine-tune it as you're riding. It's not like a one and done deal. So just keep that in mind, is you are going to want to stiffen up that suspension if you're going off-road. Or even if you're on the regular street, you really don't want a super soft suspension. I know it feels comfortable and it feels nice, but you really don't when you're going over potholes or ruts or whatever the case may be off-road. Now, I got the 650S, as I mentioned. The stock seat sucks. I would recommend just either getting the OEM like I did or get a Sargent seat for those long touring days. Your butt is gonna thank you. How they saved the seat distribution, I guess you could say, is they shave down the seat, and then in the front, on the front forks, they give you 1 inch less in suspension travel, I believe, from the regular KLR. Also, the ground clearance is a little concerning because, as you can see, that's about, I think it's a little over 7 inches of ground clearance on the bottom. And that linkage in the back, you could easily hit something and screw something up. So that's why you have to really take it easy, I think, with this bike, because it's not like a typical KLR that has the higher seat height. I think it's really interesting to have this rear rack. This is really cool. This thing is kind of finicky. This is like where your tools are, where you can keep registration, whatever. You know, it's pretty nice. It's convenient, but this is where you would like put on like a topper or something like that. I don't know if I'm gonna really do that or not, because the last part of this video is I'm gonna tell you if I expect to have this long term. And for a budget, adventure bike / dual sport, I mean, this bike really does have a lot of good features. The windscreen is pretty decent. I put this up to the top setting. I do feel wind still on my face, but it's not bad. I'm not one of these guys that bitches about the wind. I mean, to be honest with you, I don't like, as long as I'm riding, I actually don't even really care. That's my own perspective on it, but it is nice to kind of put it up. You can get a little bit of wind resistance, with having it a little higher. I'm not a fan of these incandescent turn signals, but it's a KLR. It's old school. Of course, it's going to have that. What are you going to do? I'm not a fan of how these fairings are down here. You have to kind of unscrew all this to get the fairing out if it ever does crack. Hence why I want the crash bar, so I don't have to go through that. They really made it kind of complicated. I don't know why they couldn't just keep the bolts that they had right here and, just not put that in. But they did for a reason. Fuel economy? I don't know yet. I haven't really done a full fuel economy test. This bike hasn't fully broken in yet. I have to kind of weigh out and see how it really goes. I think I got about 212 miles before I had to fill up on this bike. And this is before breaking the engine in and the fuel injection kind of kicking in and understanding, my riding conditions. It's a computer ultimately, right? So, I'll kind of see and kind of report back. Do I plan on riding this until the sun goes down? Meaning, do I plan on keeping this bike for like forever, or is this my dream bike or anything like that? I would say no. This is not my dream bike, but I would say yes, it is a bike that I actually plan on keeping for a good while. How long does that mean? Does it mean 6, 12, 2 years? I don't know. I've bought in a lot of bikes within the past couple years, so I don't really want to spend too much on more bikes and more maintenance and everything else. The maintenance on this bike is going to be a lot simpler to do compared to some of the bigger adventure bikes like the Transalp or the Suzuki 800DE. I mean, for God's sake, they have their oil filter on the bottom of the frame area with the oil drain bolt. I mean, the oil drain bolt is nice, but it's like, yeah, I don't know. I kind of like the convenience of, the oil drain bolt being on the bottom, and then you also have your oil filter right here with 2 bolts. I do like that. This bike is very basic and very simple. There's not a lot of features to it for the price point that it's at, which is to be expected. But would I want to venture off and eventually get something else? Yeah, I probably would. If I am going to get another bike, it's definitely going to be in the adventure class. I'm kind of done with dealing with dual sports. I'm not really a fan of them anymore. I think that they're great bikes still if you're doing off-road solely. But I think, plan on potentially getting the Transalp. I was looking at the Suzuki 800DE, but there's just some stuff with it that I've heard and kind of been researching on where I'm not super big of a fan of that. I also think that like I've said in previous videos, my riding style has changed where I'm doing more touring than off-roading. So I think that may change further in the future. Reason being is just because I'm discovering who I am as a rider, and I actually like mainly going down back roads and country roads and stuff like that. And yeah, I mean, I still want a bike in the event that I have to go through dirt sections that's dirt capable, so I'll probably still stay in that class. But I don't think I would be getting a dual sport because they're too underpowered for kind of what I want to do. I kind of want to go faster on the road. Off-road, I can go kind of moderately slow to fast, but I think a 650 class and up is kind of what I'm looking at. This bike, though, is very, very heavy. So the other adventure bikes are heavy too, but this one, it feels a little bit more top heavy, even for 456 pounds. Now you have the skid plate and the bars. So with all that, I mean, that adds more weight. I'm probably looking at 460 to 470 right now, somewhere in between there. The 6.1 gallon fuel tank will not beat any other adventure bike out there. Like, it's amazing. Most other adventure bikes, I think it's 5.3 or 5.4. I think the Transalp and the 800DE has probably the top two, second to this in fuel economy. But this bike altogether, it's a dope bike. It's a dope bike, and it's a classic. Comment down below if any of you have the KLR and maybe are going to upgrade to a different bike in the future, or if you just see yourself keeping this bike forever. I don't know. I always want to get your thoughts and perspectives on it. Let me know. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Hope this was insightful. Catch me on the next episode. Peace.